Hey everybody, good afternoon. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 9th of December 2021. I'm here to do a little bit of an update on Bitcoin and Ethereum, along with Shiba Inu, Cake, XTZ, Doge, Cardano, and MATIC. Before I get into any of this, of course, as you all know, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. You're responsible for your own trades, managing your own risk, doing your own research. And as always, I'm just giving my opinion on the market. If you need access to our Discord, you can gain access to that by visiting bitdoctor.org. There's a lot of information available on there for accessing our educational content, our trading room, and other things, both in traditional assets and in crypto as well. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. I'm going to start with Bitcoin today because Bitcoin's doing something that it hasn't actually done in a while. We got close a couple times, but really we haven't seen a buy on the waves indicator. We haven't seen a buy on the waves indicator. We had a big drop off back here. This was in November before we had basically a reversion to the mean. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. Then of course we fell off the cliff, and we are now to the point where we've got the 1 hour and the 3 hour both oversold at the same time. I don't think we're quite done going down yet. I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. I'm not to the point where I want to try and put an Elliott wave count on any of this. If you were to force me to give my opinion on this, I would say this looks corrective and not impulsive, which means that it's possible and probably likely that we're going to come back down here to the low 40s before we go higher. The only reason why I say that is because when we go all the way back to when we hit 30,000, right, going all the way back here, we had that big low, and then it kind of looked like we were just going to kind of keep going up, but then we went back down and hit the low. I think something like this is exactly what's going to happen. So that's the reason why I'm a little apprehensive on the price just continuing to kind of trickle up higher. Basically, what I think is going to happen when we do this, we're going to have even more longs liquidated, and I think that's going to actually fuel the fire for a continued move to the upside. But for right now, again, with this corrective move, what I'm looking at is from this dominant pivot high, this dominant pivot low, and then we get the pullback. I'm looking at the 100% and the 123.6. 123.6 is about 47,190, and the 100 is sitting here at about 47.9. So somewhere in the 47,000s, I do expect there to be probably a significant amount of support, and I think it's probably going to cause a retest of the 200. So we've got the 200 simple in red, the 200 exponential in purple. This is on the hourly. I would expect there to be a retest of that before we continue going lower. So just kind of be ready for that. As we had back here, we had a lot of our moving averages in a bearish formation, a bearish structure. The 21, the 55, the 100, and the 200 were all looking bearish. Then, of course, we had the big move up, the mean reversion. We actually went above the 200 and stayed above it for a while until we finally broke down, and then we lost it, and then we basically sold off and liquidated a whole bunch of longs. There's about $2.5 billion in longs that got liquidated, not just in Bitcoin, but in a number of different altcoins as well. So something like that I would expect to happen. Very similar to my sentiment for the stock market, I think Bitcoin is going to have another spike up, and I think it's going to reject from there, and that's what we're going to see going into the new year. More than likely, it's going to have a movement down. But again, looking left just a little bit here, this level right here, I would expect to be a pretty significant resistance. So if we find ourselves up there at about 53,700, I would say that that is probably the place that you should be either getting out of spot positions, maybe opening up some low leverage short positions, just taking some modest positions, because ultimately you're going to want to catch the move from 40,000 to 120,000. So that's going to be, a 300% move, 200% move. And you're going to want to catch that, right? So don't get caught up in the day-to-day. Look at the long term. In the long term, things are still intact for that move to the upside. But keep in mind, I'm still saying that we're probably going to see lower prices going into the new year. So, look for something to happen from January through April of next year. Let's go ahead and move into Ethereum. So in Ethereum, very similar. However, this would be the equivalent of the low on Bitcoin that we were talking about there being some support. And of course, we have bypassed that. So a couple things that I do want to point out here. All right, so first off, I'm going to go to a 4-hour time frame because our moving averages are all just sort of converging on each other right now. So it really doesn't mean a whole lot other than the 21 exponential is kind of slanted downwards. But really everything is just converging on each other. So I want to go to a higher time frame to analyze this for the time being. And what does this look like? Well, it looks like we're basically just kind of chopping sideways. And I think, a monkey without any vision would be able to tell you this as well. So looking at this, kind of moving sideways here, and just taking a look at this channel, this is actually, I'm going to pull out this channel tool over here. It's just going to look a lot better. So looking at the lows back here, which is taking off of that pivot right there, and then looking at this all the way through up here. Basically, we have been trading inside of this for the most part, with the exception of what we had up here with our range expansion. We refer to these as liquidity pools. I did expect that Ethereum would potentially come back down to retest 3,000. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but we'll see. We'll see. Ethereum versus Bitcoin has been really performing pretty well, which is one of the reasons why it has been holding up pretty well. So lots of support that we're going to be seeing here at about the 39.50 level. We have resistance back here, and this goes back to October 16th. Then we had support all the way through the rest of October. Coming all the way up here to late November, we had support there as well. And then also we had a big move down, a liquidity hunt. Of course, we saw liquidations, which means something completely different than a liquidity hunt. But nonetheless, we did see a push down here, and now we're currently seeing that movement to the top of the range, likely potentially come back down to the bottom of the range at 39.50. Be very careful, because the more times we test the support, the more likely it is for it to break. So if we do break 39.50, then I do think our targets down here at 3,000 are possible. And again, looking left, what I see right here, some support here at 33.88, we'll call it 3,400. Next level of importance is going to be right here at 27.30, and of course you'll have a range right there in between at about 3,022. So those are the levels to really pay attention to, and I realize that it is very difficult to see all this with everything that's going on the chart. I've got a lot on here that I am paying attention to. If we topped off here, really that takes our bottom down to, actually this 618 right here at about 27. So that makes a whole lot of sense. If we were to come back down here, I would expect to see a little bit of a spring. I don't think that we're actually going to see a move down here. If we did, it would go into next year. That would be pretty extreme. I don't see that as a real possibility, but it's something to kind of keep our eye on if 3,000 gets lost, right? If we lose 3,000. What that would mean is that Ethereum would lose 50% of value over the next, 4 to 6 months. Is that possible? It still remains to be seen. Do I think Ethereum is in a WXY? So let's just take a look here. Do I think it's in a WXY? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, A, B, C. So really what I'm seeing here is a 1, you could count this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me get rid of the moving averages here for just a second, just to clean this up just a little bit, because I actually do want to kind of dig into this just a little bit, not too much, because I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which also lends to this being valid for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a lesser degree, of course. So this is valid. This is valid for 5 waves down, in my opinion. Then on the way up, well, we do have a little bit of an expansion here, which kind of, throws things off just a little bit with this A, B, C, a little bit of an expansion, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we do have a 5, 3, 5, which is really a completed correction. I'm just going to label this as an A, B, C for the moment. This is going to be on a higher degree. So I think it's possible that either the correction is done, which I'm not going to rule out the correction being done, or this is, an A, B, C of an A or a W, and then we're working on the X, which if you take a look at the amount of time it took to complete this, let's just take a look at this. How long did it take for us to complete that correction? It took 23 days. So we're talking about a little over 3 weeks. How long have we been in this move up from the bottom? We've only been in this move up for 5 days. So barely anything at all. So if we are in a larger correction, a couple things are possible here. Well, one, this could be, an A, B, C, D, E. We could just be moving sideways here for the next 2-3 months for Ethereum, right? I still think it's very possible that Bitcoin does make those lows to the low 40s, but with Ethereum being so strong versus Bitcoin, a lot of people forget that there is a Bitcoin trading pair. This has been actually moving up, right? That's why Ethereum has been holding strong. Let's take a look at the daily on this guy. So I'm going to, let's see here. Let me just clear this all off and just take a look at this, because Ethereum is creating a bit of a cup. I think it's very possible and likely that Ethereum comes all the way up here at to 0.15 before we see a significant pullback, right? So we can tell just by looking at the chart here, there is some support, resistance, support right there at 0.05. And right where we're at right now is actually pretty important. If we can push up above and close up above 0.086 on a daily, that leads me to believe that the next area that we're going to see is going to be this level right here. And if Bitcoin, okay, let me just get up my calculator here for a moment. If Bitcoin, let's just say it stays at $49,000, all right? So Bitcoin's at $49,000, and let's say Ethereum does go to 0.12. That means Ethereum would be $5,880. If Ethereum versus Bitcoin goes to 0.12 and Bitcoin just kind of stays hanging around 49,000, that puts Ethereum at about $5,800, which is why I'm questioning Ethereum versus the dollar going down much further, right? I'm really looking for this down here. And where would $5,880 be? Let's just take a look here. Well, we've got, let's see here, a top there at $5,800. I gotta say, what this looks like, right? What this looks like is Bitcoin is actually going to appreciate in value versus depreciate in value, which generally I believe that's what it's going to do anyway. But what I'm trying to say here is that it's more likely that there is something else going on here. And what I mean by that is we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then potentially an A, B, C down to here, right? So what I'm looking at, for this being an expanded flat, an A, a B at $5,880, and then we go down for the C. That would be our wave 4. That, I think, is the most likely path. I'm just going to kind of clear this off because I realize that it gets a little messy. More than likely, this is what we're going to see. I'm going to see how much of this that I can actually clear off, just to keep things clean. Okay, so we've got 5 A, B, C, and then we go up for the B, finish up the B, and again, potentially $5,800, $6,000, and then we continue to come back down, and let's say this does go to $5,800 to $6,000. Well, now we're talking about something a little more realistic, which is Ethereum coming down to potentially $2,300, but the 618 is going to be sitting right here at $3,295, $3,300. That's also possible as well, and I think that's where we complete wave 4, and then we see a significant move to the upside. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Ethereum. I'm a bull on Ethereum. I think Ethereum's actually going to go to $20,000 or more within the next 5 years or so. But what happens between now and then is really just out there to kill leverage. That's what the majority of this market is doing at the moment. Looking at the indicators, the weekly is pretty overbought right now. The weekly is pretty overbought. Let me go down to an hourly so we can take a look at all of these important time frames. The hourly is oversold. The 3 hour is getting to the point where it's oversold. So I would expect there to be a little bit of a bounce here. Just same thing with Bitcoin. I would expect there to be a little bit of a bounce on Bitcoin because of what our indicator is telling us. The indicator on Ethereum says, it might do a little bit more of a pullback based on the 3 hour, But the hourly is telling me, okay, well, actually we're getting a little bit of hidden bullish divergence. So it's hard to be too much of a bear right now. So we have a higher low currently. And on the hourly, at least, we are creating, just it's almost neutral, but it still does lend a little bit of bullish slant to it from a divergence standpoint. So I would say to have a little bit of a bullish bias from here, we're right around the median, so it wouldn't surprise me to come back up here. I would prefer that. Actually, I would prefer for Ethereum to go back up to 44.65 rather than to come back down to 39.60. Because again, if it comes down here, and especially if it starts to consolidate down here, it's more than likely going to break it and lose it. Whereas what I would prefer to see, I'd prefer to see it come back up here and kind of consolidate up here, break up, retest, and then break out and get to that target of $5,800. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm looking at on Ethereum. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and move over to Shiba Inu. So I know there are some people on the server that were able to pull about, it was something like 900% on Shiba Inu. Of course, I cashed out somewhere in this range right here, so I shouldn't have, but I did. I got a really significant amount of profit on that. I know a lot of members on the server got a lot of profit on Shiba Inu. We bought this, just for the record, we bought this when it was back here, and the reason why we bought it back there is because it was consolidating in this range that I've highlighted in red. This is what you need to be looking for in altcoins. You should not be considering buying anything up here, right? Because when things are parabolic, well, what's going to happen is they can drop just as fast as they went up, and altcoins tend to do that. All right. Currently, where I basically put something out there, I put it out on Twitter too. I'm like, hey, if you have Shiba Inu, you need to sell right now. And that's when the price was all the way up here. Price was approximately we'll just call it 66.75. And right now we're at 35.85, which means Shiba Inu has lost approximately 47% of value since I basically said you need to just GTFO. You need to get out. You need to get out of Shiba Inu because it looks way overbought. We were creating bearish divergence. It didn't look great. But now, now things are looking okay, especially after the capitulation. We had a nice retest of this range back here. We are currently trading above that opening day candle, right? The opening day candle back here on Binance, May 10th, 2021. It closed at about 14.12, and we're currently trading, sorry, not 14.12, I said that wrong. The close was 34.66. We're currently at 35.80. We have some significant support here. I would say that because of the bullish divergence that we have on the daily and the bullish divergence we have on the 12-hour, I would say that, honestly, Shiba Inu is probably going to see a movement to the upside sometime fairly soon. Now, if you're going to take a trade on this, you're playing with fire because, again, I've already made, and the members on the Discord have already made enough money on this that they don't really need to worry about buying right here. But I would be very careful buying up here because it's already gone up a significant amount, right? So from the median, approximately, it's still up about 418% from where we got it. We got it, I want to say, at like 400 or 500, and now, of course, it's up significantly. But if you're going to buy here, you got to make sure that you, put a stop loss on these because, again, it can go down just as fast as it went up. Let me get this on the daily, see where we're at. So we tested the 100 exponential on the daily, which we haven't done since we broke out of it back in October, the beginning of October. Okay? I would say still currently all of the major moving averages are in a bullish formation. I say that hesitantly because the 21 looks like it's about ready to cross the 55. Okay? The 21 is about ready to cross the 55. It's about ready to cross the bearish. We are sandwiched between the 55 and the 100 right now. So the 55 is the green, the 100 is the cyan, both exponential moving averages. We're currently sandwiched in between. And you can see the price acceptance in this range, right? We've got, and let me just go ahead and box this in because it's pretty clear right here there is price acceptance in this range. We're currently trading below an important price acceptance, which is at 3,600, right? We're still at 35.87. We're right below it. If we got a test of that 100 exponential, which happens to be at the level that I was talking about before, at about 34.65, if we can retest that again, that would be where I would be willing to place a bet, right? Right there at 34.65, which is the 100 exponential moving average. So from there, I would say that that's what we're looking at. So the question is, BitDoctor1 is the Twitter handle. Yes, that is correct. BitDoctor1 on Twitter. Okay, let's go ahead and just continue moving on. So Shiba Inu, kind of gave my thoughts and my ideas on that. Again, looking at that 21 exponential, getting ready to cross below the 55. It doesn't look fantastic, but if you wanted to try a trade there, I would wait for it to come back just a little bit more, get back down and retest that 100 again before you try that. Because if the 100 breaks, you're going to be looking for a move down to the 200, right, which is all the way down at about 2,000 right now. So that's a really significant move down. So if you're going to make an attempt to buy, you need to make sure that you manage that risk appropriately on this one in particular. Sometimes. Let's see, I actually spelled that wrong. Sometimes when I take a trade, I'll leave a pretty wide stop. Like on Shiba Inu, I left a pretty wide stop on this because I was pretty confident that it was going to really outperform. But for something all the way up here, you got to have that stop loss because it can drop basically 50% in value pretty quickly. And I guess that wouldn't be 50%, but it'd be something like 40%. 43% if it went down to the 200. So you got to be really careful. Okay, sorry about that. Moving on. All right, so we've got Pancake Swap. We'll go ahead and do this on the Binance exchange. All right, so only history on here going back to March. But what I will say about Cake, right? What I'll say about Cake is the weekly is oversold. Okay? When was the last time the weekly was oversold? Well, it was right back here. And what happened back here? Well, we had a big move down and then a retest and then it went up significantly. So what do we have now? We have a big move down and maybe we're going to get that retest, and it wouldn't surprise me if we did. I would be a buyer on Cake, right? I'd be a buyer on this anywhere in the low 10s, right? Because you've got these moving averages here on the daily. The 21 is sitting there at $13.55. You've got the 55 that's sitting at about $16. You got the 100 up here at 17. You got the 200 all the way up here at like $18, right? So that's still like an 80% trade potentially, right? And you could manage your risk pretty easily, somewhere in about the 950 range. Because you can see every time it's dipped down below $10, it actually didn't dip below $10 here. But back here, it had the low of about 964. Back here, it had a low of 945. Every time it's dropped below $10, it's been bought up. So if you can get a buy in the low 10s or even below 10, and especially if it gets absorbed within that day, that is, that's a good buy in my books. So that's what I would say on this. Let me just take a look at the hourly on this. Again, it looks very similar. Yeah, we're starting to create a buy. I say we're starting to create a buy, right? I'm not saying that there is an official buy signal on this, but I would say that, probably it's going to drop down just a little bit more, maybe come back down here to about 1134. I would say it's probably going to bounce a little bit. So I'd say it's more likely it's going to bounce short term. But then I do ultimately believe you're probably going to see the price come back down to about $10. Let's go ahead and move on to Tesos and see what we've got on here. We talked about this here yesterday, and we were talking about a move down here to the 100, and we're basically there right now. Excuse me. So we're basically down here at the 100% expansion to the downside, although it does appear that we did expand to the upside before we moved down, but we are here at the 100 right now. Okay, we're down here at the 100 right now. So very likely we're going to see a bounce from this area. I would say that your hourly, this green indicator is looking, kind of flat, kind of boring, where the price is just moving down and slow bleeding. So I would say as long as we stay above that 476, then I think Tesos is probably okay. Let's just move on here, take a look at Doge. Everybody loves Doge. I'm not really sure why. This is another one that we bought before it broke out, before Elon Musk was even shilling it. We bought this one for the same reason, mind you, the same reason that we bought Shiba Inu, right? For the exact same reason. We bought this back here, right? So we bought this all the way back here. It was around November of 2020. We were talking about buying Doge at 17 sats. And where is actually Doge versus Bitcoin right now? Because we bought it at 17 sats. Yeah, it's right down here where I've kind of circled. Is right here in this range, 18, 17, 16 sats. This is where we were buying. And I remember that first spike, that was my confirmation that, what, this is looking good. And then it went up to 100. And, what kind of a return was that? Well, that was 400%. I was really happy with that at the time, and obviously it went up a lot more from there. This is about where Doge was consolidating at about 5 cents. And then, of course, it moved up. It hit its, 60, 70 cent top, and it's been kind of bleeding ever since, right? Doge versus Bitcoin has really just been kind of bleeding. This reminds me of what Ripple did, several years ago. And basically what we basically are creating lower high after lower high after lower high. And that doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. Looking at it from this perspective, we have to break 378 sats, and we have to close a daily above 378 sats, which we haven't been above 378 since all the way back here in late November. Okay, lots of support here, but eventually it broke and it was resistance, right? So again, I would expect there to be some significant resistance here. I don't think Doge is a really great buy right now. If I go to the hourly, do I still think that Doge is a great buy? I actually don't. I don't. This looks, this last hour that we just had looks actually pretty bad for Doge. Let's go back to the USD trading pair here. And again, a rejection. Let me go to a higher time frame on the USD pair. We are being suppressed by this 21 exponential on the 4 hour. We are being suppressed. And until we can get up above that, I'm going to continue to be bearish on Doge. It's going to be as simple as that for me right now. The chart looks like garbage. It doesn't look all that great. All of your major moving averages on the 4 hour time frame are bearish. If I go to the daily, it's probably the same. Everything is crossing downward right now on the daily. So I would say it just doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. I wouldn't buy Doge until it breaks up above 20 cents. That's kind of what I'm seeing right now. Yeah, there's a bit of support that we see down here at 17 cents, but ultimately, we're going to be inside of that range. We need to break up above 20 cents. If you want to take a trade here, yeah, you could probably manage your risk pretty well. Getting out of it on a daily close below 17 cents, I think your odds of getting stopped out are pretty high, though. All right, guys. Let me move on to Cardano. I have to go into Cardano always with the disclaimer that I am a bull on Cardano. The weekly is getting down there. It's getting down there pretty significantly. Again, just continuing to consolidate here. The week, oh man, this actually is starting to look really, really good. This is looking really good, and we're at about $1.32 right now. You've got the hourly, you've got the 3 hour, you've got the weekly. They're all in oversold. The 12 hour, which is the red indicator, it's the daily on stocks. It's the 12 hour on crypto because crypto is a 24/7 market. This actually looks pretty good for a buy. The last time we got a buy where the 1 hour and the 3 hour alone were in oversold at the same time was back here where we capitulated. It was basically the next hour it said to buy. And we've had decent upside from there. Even where we're at right now, it's right about where it said to buy the last time, but the difference now is the weekly has had more time to reset. The weekly is down here, the 1 hour and 3 hour are down here. The 12 hour, it's been moving sideways. So if we get a bounce, more than likely that 12 hour is going to cross right along with it. So I would be a bull on Cardano from this level because it looks okay. Certainly the moving averages are in that bearish stance. It would be fantastic if Cardano could break up above 138. I think that it probably will. And you can see here even the 4 hour is also in oversold as well. So all in all, I think Cardano looks good for a move to the upside. Even if we stay inside of a channel here, you're still looking for a move up here to, potentially about 161, right? You're going to watch and see what happens here at about 153, but then 161 I think is likely going to be where it goes over time. All right, that is Cardano. Let's take a look at MATIC. And then I'm going to close out the video for today because I have an instructional session that I'm doing. I'm doing a webinar for the members on the Discord. We're going to be doing some Elliott wave theory. And so looking at MATIC, we are losing the 200 on the hourly. Now, of course, the 1 hour and the 3 hour aren't oversold. So likely we're going to get a bounce here. Let me go to say, let me go back to that 4 hour for a moment. We're sitting on the 55 exponential on the 4 hour. I would say more than likely that hourly is going to be reclaimed and is probably going to move up. On the 4 hour, even all the moving averages are looking pretty good. If I go to the daily on MATIC, all of the moving averages look fine. Even if we saw a move down to $2, I still say that that is still pretty healthy. I still say it's a pretty healthy move. Let me just take a look at this here for just a moment. I'm going to take my fib retrace, measure from the top to the bottom, and what I want to see is where we have extended to. Let me put the 1272. Yeah, we went to the 1272, 1382 probably didn't quite get that high. Yeah. So the 1.272, 27.2% extension to the upside, we hit that pretty well. So if this is an expanded flat trend-based fib extension, we have our dominant pivot high or dominant pivot low, and then we have our pullback, which means we've got a target right here at, it's right here at the 200. Right at the 21 exponential, which is right at about $2. So very likely it goes there. It's possible, however, which is why we have to manage risk, that we come down here to 168, which as time goes by, that 100 is going to be sitting there on the daily. So if we do see a significant pullback, it's likely going to come back to that level at about 168. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right now. If this video did help you in any way, shape, or form, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. If you need access to our Discord, you can find all the information about accessing the Discord, accessing educational content, accessing our indicator, accessing our trading room. You can find all of that at BitDoctor.org. And, of course, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day, a good night, and a good evening. Take care, everyone.